you cannot just, if you are a redi wala and if you are a gola wala, you cannot just stop your gola wala thela anywhere in the city. You will be fine, hugely. So these are the sectors and these are the designed informal spaces where you can move anyhow, anywhere, and nobody will question you that why are you standing in this place. So formal setup have the informal extension in terms of hawkers, vendors, daily needs stuff, which you can see in the left image at the bottom, left bottom corner. Pickup booths. These were not planned, but people need bread and butter every day, and they cannot walk so much like every day in the morning if just bread just finishes off while you are heating it up for breakfast. So there's these such booths are there in all A, B, C, D sector portions. So you just walk 2 minutes and you get it, and you see the hawkers, you see the tappiwalas, chaiwalas who are sitting inside the sidewalk, the footpath, and accommodating the people. Like just say Sector 9 has a lot of offices, but there are no vendors allowed in that sector. Okay, have the UT administration office in that sector. So the people who go on a lunch break by chance, a wife like me does not pack a tiffin for the husband, so where will he eat? If the cafeteria is closed, or he does not like the cafeteria food, or he cannot afford the cafeteria food, what then? So such hawkers found their spaces hidden in the sidewalk, under the trees or somewhere, and they sell chola bhatura, they sell chola kulcha, they sell tea if you want some break from the office hours. So this is how informality is supporting the formalized behavior. Imagine you cannot find a tea inside your office or outside your office boundary for the whole day. Imagine, oh my god, I'm a tea fan, I cannot even imagine one day like that. So that really matters. But these Indianized things were not planned, but they need to be part of the system because they are actually a part of the system. They just not have been formally declared. And nobody declares them. Everybody ignores them. Right? Because they are the most unwanted people. Any police wala can, there have been so many videos viral in these COVID time that police wala says nothing to the car people if they are fencing the rules, but they do, harm the thela wala and these hawkers, even if for the smallest of the mistake they do. So that is really, a thing to be thought of. Where is the humanism going, and how are we treating them? And when we know they are the part of the system, we cannot live without it, but we cannot see them. Again, which I already mentioned, I want the maid to be there, but I don't want to see the maid's house in front of my window, right? So you just want inclusionary. Okay, you are excluded from our society. That does not happen, right? Similarly, the since it was a planned city and not a designed city, like I mentioned, he was an urban planner who gave the master plan, and the buildings were few buildings of Sector 22 and Sector 17 were designed by Jane Rowe and P.R.A. Jonare. But what happens between those buildings? There is a clean shaded plaza, okay, or there is nothing. There is just the kacha mitti space, okay. So the boundary ends here and the second boundary starts after a distance. What happens in the space in between? That is treated as no man's land because city was not designed, but these were the outcomes of what developed over time and how it developed over time. If the shops are not used, that person will not clean the space outside his shop. But if he is owning a space, he is getting some footfall, he will clean the space outside his shop. But that actually belongs to government. That is a government land. It is government's responsibility to maintain it. But again, since it is many times nobody's responsibility, I would say. Administratively, you have UT, you have MCD, Chandigarh Municipal Corporation, MCC. So, nobody shares the responsibility, or when, some event or political event has to happen, only then the cleaning is done. So, what happens to such no man's land? There are no regulations for that, but we really need to consider them because they are a crucial and most expensive space in the city. Imagine the first picture on the top left corner. That is the sector 17, the space which is beyond the second bridge, if you have been to Chandigarh, which is lesser used, lesser rented off commercially rather than the lower portion. So you find nothing there, and that is the most unsafe zone. My office of Chandigarh Smart City was in that area, and if I would be late in office during the meeting hours or the late sessions, after 7 p.m. I cannot walk alone in that area. I used office car to drop to go to my house, which is just across the road. Okay, I just had to cross the road. That is it. But I could not because there was no lighting, no human at all seen, because that space is not maintained. If the space is maintained, if it is owned by someone, only then it will be provisioned, right? And that is very obvious. So, what happened to the spaces like this? These are another point of perspective which needs to be thought in the planned scenarios. Why I am saying this? Because um, the aspiring urban planners and designers, in my short experience which I had in past 3 years, um, I have really felt that sitting in a cabin, sitting on a table and drawing the lines is very easy, but actually conceptualizing the thing on ground, when you know the value of every inch of space, it is very difficult. And this is what happened in the Le Corbusier's plan, that he drew the plan, he drew the buildings, he marked the edges, but he could not imagine the spaces which will be left in between. So what happens to this life in between the buildings? As Jan Gale defines, what happens to this life? That is really important, which we need to understand, because Sector 17 is the most expensive commercially, and one shop, a small shop, even rents about around 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs per month, to an extent. Minimum might be 1.5 lakhs. I have never seen the rent lesser than that. If people are affording that kind of rent, they must need the footfall like that. Okay, but do they get such a footfall? If the hawkers are removed from that plaza, if you have visited Sector 17, can you imagine Sector 17? It will be all empty, large, empty, barren space with nothing in between. Imagine summer of 2020 and you are standing there with nothing in between, no trees, just the plaza and the minimum people. No hawkers. Hawkers still are the informalities, I correct the word. Informalities are still giving the life to the formalized behavior. Some eatables, you find some drinking stuff, you find some eateries, you find some, low rated, cheaper shopping stuff. So more budgetary rather than the showrooms, of course, because if they are paying the rent of 2.5 lakhs, they won't sell a normal purse for just 1,000 rupees. They'll obviously charge you 5,000, 6,000 rupees. So that is the eliteness which we have, and we cannot um, disbar it, because that is the system which has developed in past 70 years. It is considered to be the elite city, more expensive than the normal metropolitan cities, because it has been developed like that. People have salaries like that. So it is the socio-cultural phenomena which shaped the city and the economic patterns accordingly. Okay? So that is the criteria. Similarly, both the lower pictures, left and right, are also showing the no man's land. Now see, in the above picture, you can see from the vertical two yellow lines and the horizontal line, the width of the road, width of, I would say, the ROW from building line to building line, where we have greens in between, the tree line in between, the footpath and the road, and of course hawkers on both the sides. So building to building, if a person is standing in between this road, imagine if hawkers are not there, it's all empty. So in this empty road, a girl in the middle is walking. What will she feel after 7 p.m. in such a wide cross section where the height is not that much? So the width to the height ratio is not complementing the space enclosure, the closure which a person should feel in the while walking in that on that road. Okay, so that is the thing which I was mentioning earlier. We need to really think of the scale which we are working on. Imagine the people as looking at people are looking at as small ants in this aerial perspective of sector 70, the bottom left picture which you can see. So this is the scale of plaza we have, and see the distance between the buildings horizontally, that if a person has to walk from one corner to the other, even if you shout, if I am left on this side and my kid is left on that side of the building, so even if I shout, he won't be able to hear me. Or if I lose my child in this crowd, and if we talk that grid is good or grid is bad, see the size of the grid which is considered generally to be walkable. New York's grid, which we talk of, the walkable blocks, and see the first picture, Chandigarh, which clearly defines that this is not a walkable space until and unless we have certain permeabilities which are made for people walking. By permeability, I mean within this vertical sector road, we find the ruptures and we find the pedestrian pathways directly cutting off at every 100 meters. Okay, which is considered to be ideally the distance between the two walkable pathways according to the TOD and new urbanism principles which are there. So every 100 meters or 120 meters, you need to have the pedestrian streets. So cutting those streets, imagine the kind of work we need to do on grid of Chandigarh for making it pedestrian safe and pedestrian friendly cities, which was actually also thought of by Le Corbusier initially in his principles, and which they are visible in his principles. I'll come to this slide later. Let's discuss this slide, which I am talking of the Corbusier's design principles. Because if we blame Corbusier, so let's stop, because we really need to read the Edict of Chandigarh which has been given. Because it is not mistake of Corbusier in designing the grid, but it is we as the people who are using it in over the past 70 years who have perceived it in a wrong manner of human scale, because he used human proportions as the grid. He used flexibility as the basic principle. How flexibility? He never designed a building with interior spaces. He always specified the grid of 5.2 by 5.4, and he said that this is the grid of the building and this is how the building grid will work. And he made the building structures on that grid, okay, without taking the inner walls, so that whatever use comes on it later, that it is a shop or it is an industry or it is an office, they can make the inner partitions themselves according to the functionality. So that is the kind of flexibility he thought of. Okay. Similarly, for roads, he never said that from the sectoral roads you cannot allow the pedestrian traffic to struck off in between the vehicular roads. He never said that. He just gave the rules for vehicular movement along the V7 system of roads, restricting them to the 4 entries one on each corner of the grid, on each center point of the grid. He just mentioned that. He never said do not give the pedestrian cut throughs along the pathways within the sectoral grid. He never ever mentioned that. You can see and read the books. You can read the Edict of Chandigarh. You can read, but whenever you read the books written by authors, they have actually perceived these principles as more restrictive and not flexible. I would say. And I would not name the authors because there are many different authors who have written about it. So, not blaming on one, but it is all about the perception, is what I mean to say, that what was designed and what is being perceived today. So, flexibility of the functional spaces, the great plan, because it just gave the plan, he never designed it. Low density and row rise development was initially given as the concept for visual contact with the Shivalik Hills. If my house was in Sector 44 when I was living in Chandigarh, so I could see from my balcony the Shivalik ranges on a very clear sunny day. I could really see the Shivalik Hills, and I could feel, with a cup of coffee in hand, I could feel the nature from there. So that was the reason he restricted it to initial first 20, 30 sectors, that you should not increase the height of the buildings, but beyond that, he never restricted it. For the later phase 2 and phase 3 developments, he actually mentioned nothing. So it is on you how you want to perceive it. You want to continue the same rules, or you actually want to adapt them to the current needs and the current trends. So that is the question. Another thing which was mentioned was no statues and road names after any famous person and personality, which was not there in Chandigarh. So again, this is all about the perceptions. Okay. So where is the gap left? Now let's consider come to this thing. Where is the gap left? In the original idea, he just defined the population. If it was designed for definite set of population, 5 lakh people. It was organized plan. Land use zoning was defined, which will be the residential sector, where will be the markets along the horizontal, which we discussed, the horizontal blue purple lines. Where will be the market, which will be the commercial sector, which will be the institutional sector, which will be the residential sector. All of this was zoned in his plan. Effects later on over the 70 years, population increased, services and infrastructure felt misconceiving, and they became actually lesser for the kind of population which was there. The extensions which are happening, that is the Mohali, Zirakpur, Panchkula, are very unorganized satellite towns, and the informalities, the everyday urbanism, which was never thought of and planned in the system, but being Indianized to the culture, being local to the culture of Chandigarh, local to the space, that obviously added as an add-on in the well-organized plan, so which was never thought of. So this was another affecting thing. Splintering urbanism, the social divide, which I talked, that first 13 sectors are having 2 canal plot sizes, and after that you have 500 square meters plot sizes, then you have 250 square meters plot sizes, and so on. This resulted in urban farming changes, regulation changes, social changes, and traffic mobility changes. But have we adapted our rules accordingly? This is the conjunction. This is the conjugation which we need to is for connecting and not disconnecting the spaces. Keeping in mind the walkability and people at the major center of the city. Okay, so that is the gap which we need to understand, that it is not just the formal setting, but the regulations which need to be adapted over time, because it is not just the heritage in the book which you can live life like. Because the people in administration who are deciding the rules, making the master plans, never walk. They're coming in a VIP car. They political people, they come in the VIP car. They just draw the map on the table, never go on site, and just ask some lower person or the junior associate to click the pictures and send it to them. So there is an example of this. While I was working with Chandigarh Smart City, we had a park space to be designed. So in Sector 35, okay. So this is a real example for 6 months back. So what happened? We discussed the plan with the authorities. I won't name anyone. And he was saying, in the master plan, we cannot see the road cutting the 2 parks. But I said, on ground, there is a road cutting the 2 parks, and hence dividing the big chunk of green into 2 spaces, because the traffic crossing that road is V4, and that is highly crowded. and children, old people cannot cross the road. So we were arguing over the the connection which we wanted from one park to the other on road, and not drawing a subway and not constructing a subway over there or some foot-over bridge, because park to park feel has to be continuous. So we were arguing over that and making it as a pedestrian street or a restrictive street. Just night traffic is allowed, not during the playing hours and the morning hours when people are walking, people are jogging. So he never went on site, and he just argued on the master plan that no, there is no road. So we actually had to ask a junior associate to accompany us, go to the site and see the real condition. And after 1.5 months of real convincing arguments, fights, finally he agreed that okay, on-site on-ground conditions are different, because the master plans are never updated in their the blueprints are never updated in their records. The master plans never updated, so they just keep on using those old plans and never update the on-ground reality conditions which are happening. So this is the kind of adaptation which we really need to think of with the on-ground realities. There are many NGOs working on this criteria, but somehow misleaded by many authorities, political, administrative reasons, not to be talked of. And but yeah, this is the kind of disjunction which needs to be conjugated, needs to be connected, and needs to be thought of, because it is not just about the formal structure of the system, right? So when we see around, when we walk, how engaging is our walk is really important. If we just see the blank boundary walls along the path we are walking, the set footpath we are walking, we'll be bored. If the phone battery turns off, I cannot even listen to music. I cannot talk to anyone. What do I see all around me? Trees and just the boundary wall. What if this had a clear row of shopping street or something, like it is on the V4 street, and I'm walking, watching all around, and gazing at some shoes. मुझे नहीं भी चाहिए होगा, I'll buy some stuff, right? So this in the commerce increases stuff, and hence engaged walk, and you enjoy that walk. आपको 500 meters भी 200 meters जितना लंबा लगेगा, 10 मिनट भी 5 मिनट लगेंगे if it is engaged. But if it is boring, 5 मिनट भी आपको 20 मिनट जितने बड़े लगेंगे, and you might not be able to walk, or you might not prefer walking or cycling in such spaces. So we really need to think zoning of it. The independent zoning which has been given by the Corbusier plan, residential, commercial, institutional, all standalone. That does not work. It is the mixed use which needs to be there. Even if you cannot allow the mixed use all over the sector, you can actually allow it along the edges, at least along the major edges where you are having the walkable spaces, and where you know, according to the survey, that people are cycling and walking. So you can have that. So is this what we really desire for? Is this what we want, that we just move in, we just sit in a car, go to the city center, sector 17, shop, come back, and never walk or enjoy the space? No. If you want to enjoy the journey to the work, to leisure, to anywhere, you need to have such engagements alone. So zoning is one which we need to consider. The informalities which we need to consider is already discussed. Pedestrian spaces and the pedestrian connects, cut-throughs which which we have discussed, needs to be considered. The grid size does not need to be considered. Vehicular movement can be restrictive and is really functioning well. The way it has been restricted at 400 meters, 800 meter junctions, with traffic lights, and 800 meters and 1200 meters for the the circle, the chunk. But human movement needs to be continuous. So that is where the idea of having this presentation with everyone comes into picture, that human proportion is really important Human scale is really important. Until and unless a space is relatable, until and unless a space feels enclosure and safety, it does not need a CCTV camera or surveillance. You do not need technological surveillances if you have proper human scales and proportions. There is a perfect example, the old part of Jaipur city, which was designed earlier. Even today, it functions very well. Though the newer part might not function that well, but the old part still functions very well because of the kind of scale which has been given to that grid. The scale of Copenhagen, as an example, the best pedestrian and walkable city, which is considered. It is the best human scale, which you need to understand. Berlin is known for its walkability. London is known for its sidewalk, not for its walkability. The way the shops and the land use has been complementing the footpaths and walkways along the river, which is there. So we need to really learn from examples that human proportions and human vision, not just draw it on paper, but actually considering the real site conditions, contextualizing the space, understanding the context of the space, people's need, and how and what kind of growth is happening in the city. Because conditions for Ahmedabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Chandigarh are uncomparable. Like it is happening in smart cities, that all the cities are um, measured on the same set of criterias, and they are given rankings according to the same criteria, then it is not even possible to do so. So if you compare a monkey with a fish, you will get results like dogs probably. So this is something I really think, this is my perspective over it. um, I cannot name any author, or I cannot name any kind of things which inspired me or hated me for giving this seminar on Chandigarh. This is all my perspective on when I was working with the smart city, when I was working initially over here and living over here as a resident. When I did my research on this, I have written research papers on Chandigarh and its contextualization. So, what I have felt and I have lived every day with it, that people's needs to be the prime for designing and prime for contextualizing the space. Contextualizing just does not mean understand the context. No. Contextualizing means understand the context in past and present, how it has evolved, so that you can predict the future. Understanding the kind of people which are living there, understanding the kind of economy which is happening all around the country and in that city, understanding the kind of things and facilities which can come over there over the times, designing it as an evolution and not just for the present day or for next 10 years. Leave a space for evolution, leave a space for uh, evolving, let the space evolve itself. Do not over design the space. Making a grid is not bad, but leaving a space for making the punctures in the grid is really important. Okay, or the holistic planning, cohesive planning, really need to understand the people's need and contextualization as a concept. As Sunil Khilnani, who has written the book Eye of India, and I really love that book. He is very nicely mentioned in his first chapter on Chandigarh that Chandigarh never achieved the cosmopolitan it craved. They wanted the multicultural people to come there because it was having no culture of its own. Like Ahmedabad has its some historical culture or history related to it. Chandigarh has no history beyond, prior to 1950. So the cosmopolitan culture they wanted to achieve is coming up. They never achieved the way it wanted to be, but the way it is coming up is purely dependent on the kind of economy they have provided in the total Tri-City area and the kind of people who are living in the space. Similarly, understanding the concept of planning The concept of gridding, the concept of designing a space should not be limited, but should be made open-ended, so that anybody and everybody can be a part of it and can make it more relatable. Because it is city is not a museum to be preserved, but city is a space to be lived and lived every day. And we need to experience that everyday urbanism. And until and unless we experience the urbanism over there, we cannot relate to it. Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. So
I so thank you, Architect Simranpreet Kaur, for sharing your knowledge, your experience. You have lived in Chandigarh. What are the problem? What are the consequences you have faced during those years? Even Chandigarh is one of the best planned city in India after the independence. It Let me add you some more concept. What exactly the Corbusier concept on Chandigarh? That is, it is a green city concept. Basically, the city ensure that every dwelling house has an adequate share of three elements, such as sun, space, and vendors. That is vegetation. The location of green belt is in north-south direction, where there is a Shivalik ranges. And when the Corbusier planned this city, he keep in mind few things. It is like a human body organs, where the head is a capital complex, that is Sector 1, if I'm not wrong, right?
it is the administrative head. Yeah.
Yes, it is the head of the city, just like a human figure. Then the heart is the city center, that is Sector 17.
Mm-hmm.
Lungs is the open spaces and the sector greens, where the intellect, that is the cultural and educational institution which is residing in the city, and the circular system, that is our seven V's, that is the road network, the seven V's concept. That is the most important part in Chandigarh. And the
Mm-hmm.
final, that is Visera. Visera is the industrial area which is residing outside the city.
Right.
So Chandigarh is very planned city where each and every sector is 800 into 1200 dimension,
Mm-hmm.
and the city is very closer. Few things I also agreed that there is a lack of sense of enclosure in the street also, but it is not actually the Corbusier fault. He never live in India. He never know the Indian people what exactly want, and he design our city, but
Mm.
still it is good design. Every sector is in every road is in the grid iron pattern, which
Right.
every junction is itself meeting at junction and making 90-degree to one another.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey,
I would like to switch.
I agree with you because I again say that I do not consider it as Corbusier's fault, because it is, until and unless you live in a city, you cannot judge it and you cannot design it. And he has never lived in the country, so he cannot understand the
Yes.
context we Indians have. That needs to be adapted.
Yes. 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 Exactly. This is what exactly my point is. I would like to switch to Pranay, Mr. Pranay. Kindly proceed.
Hello. Yeah, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah, Pranay, you're
Yes.
audible.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thank you so much, Simran, for such a wonderful thoughts on Le Corbusier's design. You are very much correct that he never lived in India, and he designed his expert design in Indian context. He tried to fulfill all our needs, but city grows in Indian context. City grows very organically, right? We have several sectors, several levels of occupational this thing. So in Indian context, I think if you consider Kashi still works. Kashi, being after being so much crowded with all time filled with people, it still works. Many of them right now we have many of the city getting constructed in our land, such as Naya Raipur. We are getting some more city in Amravati, I guess, the new capital of Telangana, and
Amravati, yeah.
the gift city. Yeah, we are in a pace to construct new cities, but I think the authorities or the people who are associated with this project should consider these things and not go in a single track like the Corbusier did. So we really required to criticize these things, because when we criticize our own self, our own things, we get better. So thank you so much for putting your all efforts and enlightening us. I guess after watching this presentation, many of our planners or the policy makers would light up their bulb and and will consider these things. I mean, the ignored sector, what we call it, the labor sectors, or actually these are the life of the city. These people make city lively. We don't want to make cities for the deads. Okay, we want city, but every time it should cooperate with the people. It should protect the people. It should never mind whether it is a girl, whether it is a boy or an old age man, whether it is someone who doesn't have a hand or leg or anyone. It should be universally designed. It should reciprocate the feeling of every citizen living in that space. So thank you so much for having such a wonderful event. I mean the webinar. I would like to take some questions from the audience. Sushma is asking, what is your view about parametric urbanism? Will it help in achieving human scale?
I would say there is no specific kind of architecture which caters to or does not cater to the human scale. There are the design elements which we need to understand when we are designing. So parametric designs, parametric urbanism, Zaha Hadid is our biggest example in that. So you can achieve human scale in that, but you just need to understand the functionality and the form, how they are interdependent, and if they are complementing the people and their needs and this kind of relatability they are desiring, the function of the space, whichever it is designed for. If it is a museum, can be of a bigger scale, but if it is an administrative building, it has to be, relatable. People need to relate to their office. They need to see which floor they are to be living on. You cannot walk so much from the main gate to the office room. So it is all about the design elements, what kind of elements you are comparing with, and incorporating it in your design. It can definitely achieve it, so it depends on your design.
All right. Any more questions? If we have, we can take it. Narinjanjit Kaur is congratulating you. Well made presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just tried to incorporate my experience and research and my living times into kind of picturesque, so that my idea of the city is made clear to more people, which can be there.
Yeah, if we could have some more questions, if we, I think there are no more questions.
There is one question.
Do we have?
Pranay, there is one question. Yeah, we have another question.
Yeah, I'm not able to reload it. Yeah, please. Can you recite that question?
All right. So Narjinder Jeet Kaur is willing to ask if Indianness of Indian designs is the way forward.
Indianness of Indian design. I would say yes, this is the way forward, because until and unless you feel the context of a space and you feel the interdependency of the factors which we consider, formal versus informal, organizing the unorganized, until and unless you collaborate all of them, a successful city, there is no such as a successful city, but at least a livable city can be generated with that, definitely.
I think there's one more question from Arushi, a very interesting question. She's asking how to change the monotony of Chandigarh as we need a change in city.
See, there are two aspects to it. Monotony in the Chandigarh is actually, I would say, um, a part of the structured plan which Le Corbusier had, because what he thought was, according to him, whatever I read in the books, as far as I have now. So, as per the books, he wanted to create equity, the equitable distribution of spaces for all. So he did not consider that the Indian context and the way the spaces and the size of spaces could be thought of, but he thought that the character can be generated and equitable character can be generated if we see all the buildings of same kind. Administrative buildings all same, markets all same, having the same projections, same style of the signages and everything. So that was kind of the character which is rendered to the city. It is not monotony, but it is the character, even because of which Chandigarh is being selected as a part of the heritage list, which is there. But monotony can be changed if we incorporate the informal sector with the formalized behavior in our everyday routines and not just restricting them to one or two sectors in the city. This is my understanding, because character is also important as far as heritage is concerned, even though some people consider it as the changing character. So that is also their perspective. I believe incorporating such Indianness can help you change the monotony, because Jaipur also has a similar character, but it does not feel monotonous.
Right, right.
The old city of Jaipur, even it is painted in all pink, so they have another level of the monotony, but that does not feel monotonous because of the mixed use zoning and the kind of informalities they have in their imbibed character. This is what I feel.
Any more questions?
I mean, I also want to, I want
sure.
to ask something. Like,
Sure,
children, you shared your experience of living in Chandigarh, and as you were explaining in a photograph, the horizontal scale that you were showing to us, wherein there was a large horizontal space which you were saying would not feel safe to travel at night.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to ask, like, you have experienced the space personally. So what reforms do you suggest in order to make that street friendly to walk at night also?
See, to make it more walkable at night, at the edges of the parks, like the hawkers have encroached the space as of now, they should be actually designed to be sitting all the time over there. Because hawkers are the first people to come in the morning and the last people to go, even after the shops are closed. Because they have to earn bread and butter. So they stay for the longest time in the city space. So if we formalize them along the space, and the residential buildings jinka entry point is towards the inner side of the gully, they are made on the outer edge also, which is facing the greens, so you will have eyes on street and you will be able to connect it all the time. So, and you will have engaged walk when you are walking along the vendor street, and you will have some eyes which are always looking at you, so you can be saved from the insecurity, from the rape threats which you have in mind as a girl all the time you walk on Barron Street. So these are two, three things. Windows, providing more and more windows on that side, opening up balconies over that side, so that people are there all the time.
So you're suggesting to incorporate vendors as a design element to that
Yes,
street.
yes, because apart from
That's
informality,
innovative.
yeah, informality cannot, formalized thing cannot exist without the informal behavior. And like I
That's
gave in the example of Sector 9, so the offices,
Yeah.
so they cannot exist, they have to coexist somehow.
Correct. Wonderful. Do we have any other questions, Pranay?
I don't think we have some more questions. Himani is congratulating you for this wonderful presentation. That's it. I think we can conclude the session now. You can go ahead, Aditi.
Okay, so first of all, thanks a lot, Simran. It was actually an engaging presentation, and no one could have imagined to understand Chandigarh in better way than you have explained it to us. So it was great having you, and I would like to thank all our audience also for being patient and enjoying this session. And I would again say, as I always say, that please, your feedback is very important for us. Provide us with your feedback. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. Our sessions are going to be uploaded very soon, so you can have full sessions on YouTube channel. And I hope you had a great evening. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Archilope India, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of the webinar series.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.